Happy to have you along once again. We are joined, as always, by Greg Engert, beer director for the Neighborhood Restaurant Group, a food and wine sommelier of the year. The group includes Evening Star Cafe and Planet Wine in the Delray neighborhood of Alexandria. What's on tap this week?
So this week, I figured we would stick with the kind of autumn and German kind of beer scene for a beer that we are featuring literally today at Snallygaster. So fingers crossed, everything's going well. This is going to be this giant beer festival, Yards Park, right by National Stadium in D.C. Starts at 1 p.m. Phenomenal time, 150 beers, and this is one of them. It's called, and this is a mouthful, so just bear with me. Bayerischer Bahnhof Berliner Weisse with Brettanomyces Lambicus. So we'll just break it down word by word.
I thought 2 weeks ago the
Beer von
I thought that was a long name.
No, this is the winner. And great too, because it's long name for a 3% alcohol beer. So Bayerischer Bahnhof is actually means Bavarian train station in German, and is actually not located, this train station, in Bavaria at all. It's actually in Saxony, in Leipzig, which is in the former East Germany. And Leipzig is used to be kind of the gateway to the south. So this was the train station that would service all lines south to Bavaria. And this station kind of went out of use in many ways as more just a commuter rail over time as intercity rail started to become more important in Leipzig. So in 1999, the Schneider family took over a portion of this train station and created a guest house, Gasthaus, an inn, and small brew pub. And so one of their ideas with the Bayerischer Bahnhof brew pub was to resuscitate and revive some German beer styles that have kind of gone by the wayside. And that's where Berliner Weiss comes in. A wheat beer, traditionally very important and very popular in Berlin, even further to the north. And the last part, Brettanomyces Lambicus, indicates a specific type of wild yeast, Lambicus Brettanomyces, that is utilized in making the beer. So first, Berliner Weiss. Wheat beer, as we know it, typically we think of Hefeweizen from the south, from Bavaria. Now that's the kind of beer that's very contemporary and modernized. It's very clean, a little bit sweet. It's got great banana clove, bubblegum flavors in the nose. And this is in part because for about 350 years until 1872, Bavarians were not allowed to brew Hefeweizen. So when it came back in 1872, it immediately was kind of revived in a very clean, modern style. And the reason why it was kind of
the beer police got on them?
Well, there's lots of beer coercion laws called Bierzwang that have been used over the years for many different reasons. And one of the reasons was just grain and its uses. So wheat was better used for bread baking, where barley doesn't make great bread, so it was better for beer making. So that was in part why it was outlawed in 1516 with the famous Reinheitsgebot. The nobles kept brewing it for themselves, of course, so they sold it off to another Schneider family, a totally different one in Bavaria, started making it again in 1872. None of this kind of thing happened up north. And so these beers didn't kind of go away and they get revived in a contemporary way. So the Berliner Weiss continued apace to be kind of rustic and old school, low alcohol, sour, very sparkling and effervescent when first poured. In fact, famously, Napoleon in 1809, as he took Berlin, encountered Berliner Weiss and referred to it as the champagne of the North. So this is why it never kind of got cleaned up. And around the turn of the 19th to the 20th century, there were hundreds of Berliner Weiss brewers in Berlin. But up until recently, it basically died off as a style, very out of touch, low alcohol, sour, and just not that famous. Typically, they used to blend, as people wanted less and less sour from their beer, if they had to drink this, they would blend in syrups. Either a raspberry syrup called Himbeer syrup or even Waldmeister, which is made from woodruff and it's green, to kind of sweeten the tang. Now, these guys at Bayerischer Bahnhof created this style as Berliner Weiss, and they typically it's very modernly made. They don't let it naturally sour. They just add in things. So first they ferment it with actually a Hefeweizen yeast strain from Weihenstephaner. So it's got a little banana and lemon in the nose. But then they finish it with lactobacillus, the bacteria that gives it a lactic tartness, kind of like yogurt. That's their typical one. This one's even funkier because, if you think about it way back when, it wouldn't have just been kind of cleanly tart with lactobacillus. It would have been rustically funky from wild yeast that would have gotten into the beer at some point as well. So this one is lactobacillus and Brettanomyces Lambicus, which gives it a little bit more of an earthy, kind of rustic quality.
Very light in color.
Bone dry. Yeah, super light. Almost has a kind of apple ciderish character to it.
Oh, wow, that's different.
Yeah.
But good.
It's good.
In a good way.
It's very, very appetizing, refreshing. You know, in Germany, they've been known to drink this concoction called Radler. And Das Rad is the bike, you know? It's like lemon soda and Pilsner. They'll blend it together and put it in like a thermos and ride their bikes because they cut the alcohol and it's very refreshing, but they still get a little bit of pop there, you know? So this in some ways reminds me of that. I mean, it tastes super refreshing. It's cidery. It's kind of lemon soda-y. And it has a little bit of a funky quality to it, which is great as well.
But like last week's beer, the taste really evolves through the sip, too.
It absolutely does, yeah. Through the sip, even on your palate. The finish is different than the beginnings.
What would you pair this with? It seems like it might go with just about anything.
Yeah, it would, except it is light. So the one thing about it is a lot of this character of this ale with food is that amazing tartness. So that's what you really want to play up, is that kind of pop of sour quality, because while the flavors do change on your palate, they're delicate. So other food will kind of override it. I love to start a meal with this. Oftentimes if we have people coming in, say to Birch and Barley, and they're celebrating a wedding anniversary or something like that, in lieu of champagne, we'll pour them a glass of this. So it's very, very great. It really opens up your palate. And only 3%, so it kind of eases you in. That said, though, so if you're starting with it, then we can naturally go into early courses, all sorts of raw fish. Think of like sushi. Because the thing also, I mean, this is great with wasabi, because the thing about spicy heat is that alcohol can light that further on fire. So having something that's only 3% and kind of effervescent can kind of wash away some of the bigger flavors, bring that pop of citrus to the fish as well.
And if you want to keep your wits about you on a first date.
Yeah, exactly.
3%.
Or even on your anniversary day.
Well, this beer is in no way strange. It's delicious. But Philip Raskin writes into Beer of the Week and has this question for you. What is the strangest beer you've ever tried?
It's a good question. I get these questions about what's the strangest, best, worst thing.
Yeah, I know.
And it's hard to say exactly what the single one would be, but off the top of my head,
yes,
there is and it kind of relates to this. So if this is a brewery in Leipzig trying to recreate a style of beer that used to be very, very popular, the Berliner Weiss style, well, we've talked in some previous episodes about how hopped beers with hops in them, really didn't take hold until the 12th, 13th, 14th century. And before then, what they were seasoning and preserving beer was something called Gruit, which is Old German for wild herbs. And these are crazy things like bog myrtle and yarrow, mugwort, but also things we recognize today like rosemary and even like ginger, sage, and stuff like that. So there is another person in Germany. His name is Professor Fritz Brehm. He works at the Domens Institute, which is a major brewing university that is actually connected to Weihenstephaner in Bavaria. And he has his own line of beers that resuscitate styles. So he has a beer that's similar to this but stronger, kind of made for the American market, you know, not 3% alcohol. And that's called 1809, the year that Napoleon encountered the style. But the strangest one, I think, that I've had, at least from him, or maybe Germany, is called 13th Century Grut beer. And the one difference about it, it's pale in color, which that wouldn't have happened in Germany probably till the 18th and 19th centuries. So that's a little bit more modern. But it is loaded up with all sorts of wild and strange herbs and spices from Middle Age times, these kind of former medicines. And it's interesting. I actually like it. And if you like old world liqueurs, like you'll find in France and things like that, like cordials that are really, really herbal, even maybe Jägermeister-ish, you might like this. But it's very almost potpourri-ish. It's got like big rosemary and big thyme. And actually, we're getting shipments of kegs of that beer soon. So that's actually a great thing, because if you don't want to commit to this 13th century group beer in a 16.9 ounce bottle, you can come into our restaurants and get a little 4-ounce taster of it.
We will look forward to that as a future Beer of the Week. Greg, thank you as always. We appreciate it. And before we go, do you have a question for Greg? The email is beeroftheweek at WTOP.com. Everyone, always do drink responsibly, please, and be sure to bring your thirst next time for another Beer of the Week.